Let's turn our attention now to what happened in Wales last night. And there was a vote in the Welsh Senate to extend the vaccine passport rules, not just nightclubs and major venues involving large numbers of people, major events, but extending it to cinema, theatre and concert halls. So a big question is what happens next. Let's talk to Silkie Carlo. She's director of Big Brother Watch. Good morning to you, Silkie.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. Well, you've been fighting against this, protests outside the Senate yesterday ahead of that vote. As it went through. There was a big sort of row over why the vote went through initially during Tory-party conference that initially brought vaccine passports in Wales. Which we never really quite got to the bottom of, with one Tory candidate who couldn't, Senate member, who couldn't cast his vote remotely. But last night there was a much bigger majority to extend. Why do you think that was?
That's a good question. It doesn't seem logical to me, but there isn't really much logic in the whole COVID pass plan.
No.
And the basis of our legal challenge that we're now launching is partly that. No evidence base was brought forward by the Welsh Government for COVID passes. You can't do something like that. You can't make a constitutional change and turn a country into a papers carrying country where you have to show medical ID to do basic things without having a very strong evidence base for why it's absolutely necessary. Yeah. And the reason there isn't that evidence base, I think, is that, as we all know from seeing the research that's publicly available, I really don't think that there is one. So there is a disproportionate invasion of people's privacy, and it's changing the nature of society. So it
would be a massive big infringement of people's fundamental civil liberties, even if it did have a clear effect on cutting transmission. But the fact that there is no evidence of this. We've had all these major events. I mean, we had vaccine passport proof being shown to get into Wembley for European Championships. We had loads of cases there. We've had no vaccine passports being required from Conservative Party conference. I'm not aware that there was a major outbreak. I've not met anyone who was at Conservative Party conference when I was there who had it, or Labour as well, and they weren't checking anything certainly from the Sunday onwards. So there's very little evidence these make any difference to anyone at all, and yet they do have a huge impact on our civil liberties and a huge impact on businesses, don't they?
Absolutely. And businesses are saying that this is going to make it incredibly difficult for them, because now they've got to pay staff to be checking people's health status as they come in. This is an extraordinary situation. And it seems that the harder that the COVID pass policy fails, the more it gets extended, the more power the government is getting. We've seen just within days now in Wales, the scheme already being extended. In Scotland, that they're now talking about COVID passes for pubs, something that has been explicitly denied. So I think the question that we need to be asking is, this is just the beginning. Where will it end if we don't stop it now? Is it going to be colleges and universities or supermarkets?
And that was originally discussed in England as well, wasn't it? And of course, lots of people say, oh, for goodness sake, this is such a conspiracy theory. What are you doing? And I was speaking only half an hour ago to the Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, talking about the mandatory jabs for NHS workers and care workers. And I know a lot of people who are massively opposed to any mandatory jabs and healthcare at all, but sort of sitting on the fence on. And again, I find it very difficult. I think these people should be double jabbed, but I want it to be their choice. And a lot of people, in 2 months. But the concern that these things have a habit of spreading to every area of our life is why a lot of people now are concerned. And it's not a conspiracy theory when you cannot do any job at all in Italy without showing your vaccine passport. You can't be a federal employee in America or in Canada. You can't get on a train or get on a plane in Canada if you haven't got your vaccine passport. In New Zealand, in Australia, we've got mass anti-lockdown and anti-vaccine passport protests around the world over bringing in of this. We've got them in vaccine passports going in bars and restaurants in France. And again, huge protests every single weekend. You don't see them on the BBC, on ITV, on Sky. They, for some reason, don't think those protests are worth reporting. COP26 protest, wall-to-wall coverage. But actually, this is happening in democratic countries around the world. So it's not a pie-in-the-sky conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I mean, look at the situation that we're in. Already in this country, people are losing their jobs and can't do basic things now, like go to the cinema or take their kids to the rugby or football, unless they're showing their medical papers. And we're just weeks into the schemes in Wales and Scotland. So we have to be realistic about the situation. I think if we think about where this scheme could be this time next year What new jobs will it be that people can't get unless they've decided to have? How many vaccines? Will it be the booster by then? So I think this is about principle. And the principle is that people should have the right to decide over their own body. They should be given good information. They should have, we're lucky we live in a country where we have these health choices, but to give employers and your government the right to be vetting your medical papers in everyday settings, or just to live your life and just to have an income, is absolutely absurd, and hopefully we're going to stop it.
Absolutely. The vaccine works. I'm sorry, I've been really impressed. The vaccine works. It works better than they'd ever expected it to when they started rolling it out, and it works. The main way it works is protects the person who's had the jab from being seriously ill or from dying. If people are concerned about going about and going to a pub, going to a club, or doing whatever, have the vaccine, protect yourself, and then mind your own business. Is kind of where I'm on this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the facts of the matter is that vaccines are very effective at preventing hospitalizations and deaths, as you say, but not at preventing infections, unfortunately.
They do limit, they limit transmission and infections, but they don't exactly. They don't. They're not hard and fast on actually limiting that. In which case, it's not going to solve the problem if that is the issue. Always good to talk to you, Silkie Carlo, from Director of Big Brother Watch.